All right. So, welcome everyone to Holding Complexity. This is a new series, and we're going to be talking about both important and controversial questions that pertain to Jewish LGBTQ youth from historically unaccepting communities. And we will be doing that, hopefully, with nuance and thoughtfulness as our guide. My name is Dr. Jeremy Novich. I use he, him pronouns. I am a clinical psychologist and the clinical director at JQY.
I'm Tali Benkoe. I'm a licensed clinical social worker. I'm a social worker at JQY and the Trans Plus lead, and it's good to be here with everyone that I can't see.
Yes, the kind of the beauty and disadvantage of webinars. We have fewer distraction and also can't see audience engagement. Um, so it's complex. Like everything we talk about will be complex. All right, so we're here to talk about how to support trans youth by lending your adult brain. Just as a matter of housekeeping, during tonight's conversation, you're invited to use the Q&A function, which is at the bottom of your screen. I always wanted to point down at something on the screen and then tell people to use it. It makes me feel like one of those famous Instagram influencers. So I'll just do it
We,
again. If you need to use the Q&A function to submit questions, you do so using the Q&A function at the bottom of the screen.
I just
Tali,
checked.
you had a question.
We have no questions yet, just so you
Oh,
know.
okay,
And yet.
good. All right, well, we just got started. Um, all right. So, and if we don't get to all of your questions, which we might not, we will be putting them in our special question bank. And we will be potentially using them in the future for a future conversation.
We like your questions because we're just two people thinking about these issues, or I'm thinking more about this issue in particular, and it's helpful in knowing what it is that you guys want to know and what's on your minds.
So everybody buckle in. This is our first time doing this kind of armchair conversation like this. Um, so keep your seatbelts fastened at all times, unless we tell you that unless we turn off the sign, then you can walk freely around your apartment or home. And
Jeremy, thank you for piloting us.
oh yeah, I know I couldn't get past this whole pilot headset. All right, so I think Tali, why don't we frame our question? So there's a lot of controversy out there from medical experts when it comes to transition related healthcare. Some leaders in the field say that you need an extended evaluation of 6 months to a year before a minor can be put on any kind of medication, whether it's puberty blockers or hormones. Um, and then other leaders in the field would say that you can and often should begin puberty blockers even after just a 1 hour evaluation with the youth. Some say medical transition provides little benefit to trans youth overall, and then others will swear by it as life saving. So we're really in this mix of a lot of mixed messages from the medical community.
Right. And so something that I'll say a number of times during our conversation is that many different things qualify as transition. And so when we talk about medical transition, like Jeremy said, we're talking about puberty blockers, which is what people typically take before they go through puberty to put a pause on it. And then there's testosterone, there's estrogen, and there are various surgical procedures that are part of transitioning for some people. Um, but in any case, yes,
And,
carrying
and
on.
I and as you mentioned when we were doing our prep, not everyone uses all of these um, medications or surgeries. Transition can look totally different for different folks. Really, like we're not just saying, oh, everything is different for everyone. Like actually, it does look different for everyone.
Yes, that's true.
So not only do we have though these mixed messages, right, Tali, from the medical community, there's also a lot of polarization coming from the political arena. I mean, really strong statements coming from government officials, people running for government, all, I shouldn't say all, many of whom, most of whom are not healthcare professionals, but speak with utmost certainty about what is best for youth.
Right. I was thinking about the that piece of legislation or whatever it was, the Save Adolescents from Experimentation, which almost is an oxymoron. You know what I mean?
How
Like
so?
saving adolescents from experimentation. What
Oh,
is adolescence besides
oh.
experimentation? In any case,
Yes.
um, in any case, yeah. And so a lot of people that push back, I think, would claim that this is just a social media trend, that children are being harmed, that there's Jeremy, what are your favorites again?
Oh, the favorites. They're like epitomes of, to me, like very concerning rhetoric or unhelpful rhetoric. One of which is talking about some trans medicine as chemical castration, I believe. And then about genital mutilation when referring to surgical procedures. Then, Tali, I think you have an example of one too that you mentioned earlier.
Right. And I don't want to discount the rates of suicidal ideation or suicidality in this population, but make it can make things become kind of a zero-sum game to hear, do you want a dead child or a dead person or a trans child? Um, and I think we really want to able to be a little bit more thought out.
Yeah, those types of comments between the mutilation and the castration and the dead, it really does not put us in a, doesn't situate us well to have like a thoughtful conversation. It really just raises the anxiety, raises the pressure, raises anger. And that just, look, I'm a psychologist. We're both mental health people. We love feelings. And also, like, if they're going, if they're like really high, it's very hard to be thoughtful. Um, so there's kind of a lot of things going out in the mix. And when you listen to medical experts and politicians, you would think they're speaking with such confidence. You would think they're on different planets, like in different worlds. They have such confidence that their side is right and the other side is like not with reality. It almost feels like warring factions, not like an
Right.
actual disagreement.
Right. And it's obviously, and I'm being sarcastic here. Oh, oops, I apologize. Now I'm reading from the chat. Anyway, um, anyway, what was I saying? So you would think that these politicians and whoever it is are really, really concerned about trans youth, right? That's really the main concern. I think both of us have some doubts about that. In the things that we've listened to and read while preparing for this conversation, you can kind of hear when someone starts to be speaking with some personal, uh, I don't want to say vendetta, but some personal stake in the whole thing,
Hmm.
whether or not they themselves are trans. Anyway,
Right. So tonight, so the question for tonight is, what do we do in the meantime? Right. You and I have listened and researched all kinds of stuff in preparation for tonight, and also just over the course of our filling our roles at JQY over the last few years. We're not going to be going through medical guidelines. We're not going to be reviewing all the scientific literature. We're not going to sort out and figure out who's more right than the other and say it with utter confidence. I think we have a different perspective to add tonight. So we're on the ground working with trans youth. We're both clinicians, and yet we're also both in a non-medical setting, right? So we have like lots of clinical experience. I would say some clinical adjacent experience with some of our other programming, and yet we're not. We have like a distance from that. discourse um, that I think can give us something else to focus on that I think is also very important.
Right.
So you ready? Now that we all buckled in.
Yeah, well, I mean, the last thing I'll say is that at this point, whether we know X or Y or Z for a fact, something we do know for a fact, and that is something we take as fact, is that transness does exist. It is something, look at me, look at this. It is something, it's something that is a fact of our world, right? And it has been for quite some time, and it's something that now more people are feeling connected to in some way. So yes, what do we do? What do
Yeah.
we,
So our question for tonight is: given all the contradictory messaging, which we already said we're not going to fix, from the medical community and very polarizing political discourse, how do we support trans youth? That's our question for tonight. You agree on the question, Tali?
yes,
I agree on the question. Excellent. So now we have
read the categories as well.
we have two Jews who can agree on a question. Excellent. Don't know that we're going to agree on answers, but we'll start with a question. All right. So I think we should go at this first of all from some high level thinking. Kind of what are some principles that would be useful for folks to take away?
Ooh, we have
Uh,
two questions in the Q&A. Should we look at them or what?
why don't we save them for a little bit?
Okay.
Let's make sure we get through some of our stuff. It may answer some of those questions. Um, so let's talk high level, and then we can get. I think we might weave in some of the details that are trans specific. Um, so when it comes to supporting trans youth, the thing that comes to mind for me first is the relationship with the person. Whether you are a parent of a youth who is saying that they are trans, or you are the rabbi, or the teacher, or the therapist, or bus driver. I don't know. Sometimes you can have cool rapport with your bus driver. Um, the most important thing at the beginning is a relationship. When you have a relationship, you can really have conversation. You can learn about the person. And when you have a strained relationship or no relationship, everything is shut down. Right? Your ability to influence and support the young person is totally dependent, primarily on having a positive relationship.
Yes. Yeah. And so, you know, as we were thinking about this, we were thinking about stories or anecdotes that we've heard from JQYers about issues with their families around this. And so we're imagining to ourselves, right? There are some scenarios where a young person comes to you, you're a parent, and in this very angelic way, they say, Mom, Dad, or whoever you are, I need to tell you something. And then they tell you, but sometimes it can be a lot messier than that, I think, or it can come out in an unexpected way, or whatever it is. But either way, um, it's important when you hear something like this to really try to listen. And I think saying that one should listen is maybe a little bit uh is trite the word I'm looking for, but there are things, that get in the way of listening when you hear something that you weren't expecting to hear, where you have a lot of noise from the media, from the news, kind of streaming into your brain, right? And so you really, really want to make sure that if maybe this first conversation didn't go as planned, that there could be another conversation. Let me back up for a second. But before I back up, Jeremy, do you look like you have something to say?
Yeah, I'm just thinking about kind of the importance of listening, um, and why it's so critical. At first, um, I mean, even the title of our conversation today was had an action word that wasn't related to not doing something. It was, how do you support trans youth by lending your adult brain? So it's like giving something, like you're supposed to do something already. Um, and it feels like we have to make decisions and draw boundaries. And the first thing to do is listen. If you don't know this about me, you will soon learn. I can't guarantee I'll do it every time we have holding complexity, but I often quote Judge Judy. And she says that God created you with one mouth and two ears for a reason, i.e., you should be listening more than talking. So it's a great thing to keep in mind. So that when a youth comes to you and shares this with you, you can actually be quiet at the beginning and just hear them out, really
Right,
from a place of curiosity.
right. And so you sometimes a young person will say something in a very impassioned way, and you can hear it and you can take it in and you can listen to it. And it doesn't necessarily mean they're being literal, right? But they are trying to tell you something important. And so what we mean is that you want to slow down and get an idea of what it is they're trying to communicate to you. You can say, I mean, depending on how they are, you can say, I see something is really, really bothering you, or you're in distress about something, and I want to understand. Um, and what's nice is that whoever this person is in your life, they are potentially giving you an opportunity to learn a lot more about their inner world and inner experience. I mean, I imagine if you're a parent, that might be the case, or if you're someone who's close to them. Um, and so that's where, it's important to get curious, right? Like, when did you start experiencing this? And when we say no two trans people are alike and no two experiences of gender dysphoria are alike, I mean it, right? And so you want to really be curious and get some details about what has been going on. Um, and, you know, that can be hard to do if you are feeling closed off to this information. Um, but if you can find some genuine curiosity about what this experience has been like, you might find that you're better able to collaborate with this young person in figuring out what it is that might be a next step.
Yeah, we know as therapists the importance of curiosity, right? It's so easy to start going to conclusions and using deductive reasoning or whatever it is, trying to figure something out when we can actually just gather more information and be like, huh, what is this about? And it's totally understandable um, that with this topic in particular, it could be like, what am I supposed to say? What am I supposed to do? If you're a parent, you might be having really strong reactions. All totally understandable. And also, like, if you start with the like, what is this about? I need to understand this a little better. That could really be very helpful. We should also add when a young person comes to you to share this,
The way
it
we're
is
saying young person, I have to
youth,
laugh for a sec. I
youth.
mean,
Okay, we
all
do
of it,
like to
it
laugh.
sounds like the young
Young,
person. Anyway, keep going.
yes, youth, young person. We try to stay away from the word kid. Um, and then child felt like it was like, well, not everybody here's a parent. So anyway, young person. If you want, we can get a laugh track for next time. Okay. Um, when they bring this to you and share this with you, it's really an invitation. Like you talked about an opportunity earlier, Tali, right? To really understand your child or your student. It's really an invitation for a conversation. How often, that isn't always the case with teenagers, where they're
Mm-hmm.
like, hey, here's something about me. I'd love to talk about it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Well, there's like a million things that I want to say.
Well, why don't
Um,
we start with one?
okay.
100,000. No, okay, one.
Well, so, I think something that we have heard over the years, right, is like, is whoever it is responding to the person that how would they know this? They're young. How exactly do they know this about themselves? And I think it's important to remember that number one, you can know something about yourself without being able to fully articulate it, and that goes for young persons, and that goes for adults. There are just things that we sometimes know, right? And so your job as an adult is to try to help the person articulate it, right? To affirm for them that you see that there is something that they are recognizing about themselves and that you want to know more, right? And it's only a, a child, an adolescent, a young person, whatever we want to call it, um, will only benefit in the long run from being more in touch with who they are, from being able to listen to their inner voice. Um, I mean, that is the best way to make good decisions. I mean, obviously, also with thinking and with research and with reflection and with weighing out pros and cons, right? But first, listening inside. Um, okay, I feel like I just talked a lot.
Okay. So you mentioned a word which I think was important, which is affirming, right? We hear that all the time with gender affirming care. And has become a what do you call it? A buzzword to the point where it's not super clear to me exactly what it means.
Hmm.
Um, and but I think there are things where we can be certain about, like affirming your child's uh, effort to understand themselves better. Like you can do that. You can uh, affirm them recognizing themselves and them sharing it with you. There's all kinds of ways you can affirm in a way that isn't kind of like branded politically. There's all kinds of ways of affirming someone. Um, and the other thing that I was thinking of that kind of weaves into this idea of unpacking and listening, which is as we've done our research, both again in preparation for this, but also through our work at JQY, the definition of what trans is, like the population of trans youth, is quite different now than it was in the 80s, right? It was really people born male who wanted to be uh, women and vice versa. And now we have non binary, we have folks reporting um, a trans identity in their adolescence for the first time. So it's almost like what does trans mean now? So instead
Hmm.
of rushing to this, no, it is real, no, it isn't real, yes, hormones, no puberty blockers, no, it's social media, what's they them mean? I, these things almost I don't know what they mean because we're talking about different groups of people who have different languages over time, 1980s till now. I mean, these are curiosity is your best friend here. Um, Thinking you know what a person means when they even say they're trans. I wouldn't, and I do this work. I would be curious what they mean by it. In
Hmm.
fact, it's part of our clinical interview. Whenever anybody shares an identity, is what does that mean to you? Right? Even that's
True.
what we do.
Right.
Um,
Right. So, I mean, let's imagine, right, that we have met such JQIers who feel a burning desire to go through all kinds of different medical transition type things.
mhm.
Or they want to change their clothes, they want to change their hair, they want to change their pronouns, and they want everyone to respect it yesterday. And I think we've heard so many stories of just like pushback. And then we see like, they want this, the parent, whoever it is like, no. And then everyone just kind of becomes more and more entrenched in what it is that they think, right? And the truth of the matter is, and you've said this, I won't steal your line, but all of these things have ramifications. And when I say ramifications, I don't mean that they are bad processes to go through or good processes to go through or beneficial or not beneficial. But if this young person is going to turn 18 eventually and actually have the ability to make all of these decisions on their own, I mean, it's true that someone might need to bankroll them, but um, there are ways, that a person can get what it is that they want. And so encouraging this young person to be an informed, uh, consenting participant in this treatment means that you can partner with them in researching. Okay, so with X, you stand to benefit in this way. Here are the things that um, research has shown can happen. Um, what are you thinking? How does that sit with you? How does that land with you, right? Because I think in many of these instances with the JQIers I'm thinking of, they all have the ability to make good decisions and thoughtful decisions and to reflect on what's right for them in the right conditions, right? So, um, even taking something like socially transitioning, if you're in Base Yaakov or you're in an all-girls school and you decide, well, I want to get a haircut. And so you as a parent, you can say, okay, listen, if this is what you want to do, I can get on board. I want you to know that I'm imagining that your classmates may respond in this way, or you may get this kind of issue from a teacher or what have you, right? And so, is that okay with you? So basically, you as an adult have the ability to do a little bit more forethinking and give this young person information about what may or may not happen, right? And this makes you guys partners in figuring out what to do.
I'm hearing a few things from you, Tali. One is exactly what you just said, which is sometimes these conversations and interactions become, what's the word? Adversarial. I mean, that's a weird word to describe a parent-child relationship, but it becomes like a one person holding this view and the youth holding a different view. And then we just argue with each other, as opposed to one pivots and then we work on it together to address this transness. Like, what does it mean for you? I'm helping you. I'm the adult, and I'm going to try to help you with it. So that's one thing, right? The partnering. Another thing you mentioned was that when youth turn 18, they will be able to make decisions for themselves. So there's really, we can almost make a Dvar Torah with this. Oh, it has two meanings. One, able to make a decision could mean just legally, do they have the status of being able to make the decision? And the answer to that is yes. And then the second thing is, well, are they able to make an adult decision? And the answer to that is maybe, but your brain is still developing, still in your early 20s. So you're not necessarily, you're right to make decisions that have very significant impact on your life precedes your developmental readiness to do so. So,
Hmm.
with that in mind, we want to be modeling as strongly as we can, being thoughtful. Saying no and just no, and that's not real, is not helping a child.
It's not particularly thoughtful. It's a reaction.
Right. It's reactive. It's obviously going to upset them. Perhaps most importantly, though, like you're not helping them get ready to make this decision because they will be able to at some point.
Hmm.
Um, you
I
also touched on, I got to say one more thing, which is you
Please.
talked about um, reversibility, essentially, right? And the way people talk about it is, surgery is not reversible, hormones are partially reversible, and puberty blockers are reversible. And then social transition, we don't even
Explain what you mean by social transition.
social transition, name, clothes, pronouns, haircut, those kinds of things. Um, those we don't even need to think about. Totally reversing. Like, don't even think about it. It almost seems like we just brush it off. And I think that we're not doing anybody any service by doing that. That also should have pros and cons weighed. There are
Mhm.
consequences if you show up to school wearing different clothing.
Right.
Maybe we should be coaching the youth. Don't worry about that. You be you. But maybe we shouldn't. That we
Oh,
cannot erase that experience after it has happened. You know,
right.
if this is a very stressful time, maybe or maybe this isn't the best context for that experimentation to happen. Maybe that experimentation should happen at home first. Stakes are
Right.
lower.
I mean, and I think, depending on who you are in this kid's life, you have a sense of h- how they are. Are they someone who is more sensitive to um criticism or rejection, or are they someone who has always tended to be more bold and doing what it is that they want to do, or what is going to be the impact if um there is a negative reaction to the changes in them? Will there be, or will there not be? These are all things that you can consider, and you can be transparent with them, right? And I think, I don't know if I already said this, but I'll say it again. And I'm saying this because of the amount of times I've heard about conflicts, right? And it sometimes can seem like, if you've had three conflicts, well, we're doomed to only have conflict, me and my kid, around this issue. But there is room for a lot of what we call rupture and repair. We call, and we in the field call rupture and repair. So, the first four conversations might not go well. You might get activated, they might get activated. But as an adult, you can say, again and again, I know that this conversation has not gone how we want it to, or how I want it to. But I am still here, and I do still want to understand you, even if it's hard for me. And I think that can actually go a long way, because the truth is that depending on where this young person is from, there are going to be many people who take a long time, especially if they've known this young person for a while, to adjust to potential changes, right? And so them having the experience of there being some sort of, conflict or something that's just not working, but going through it and coming back together is really, really key. And for those who need to hear it, using language like we, like I'm in this with you, we and us is language that brings them in closer.
You mentioned something earlier. I don't know if it was in this conversation or just earlier today. The timing of some of these um, choices also matters. Like a youth just might not be at the right time where they could handle the rejection. But in 6 months, it might actually be 6 months after they graduate high school and go to college. Maybe it's a great opportunity. Maybe like going to a new college, fresh start, like great
Mhm.
opportunity, or new workplace, or just
Mhm.
older, more resilient. Um, they've dealt with a significant mental health problem that is now more stable. Any of
They've
those
taken
could
the
be.
SATs.
They've taken the SATs.
They're not studying anymore.
gosh, this is bringing back memories. Anyway, so we also think about also how are we modeling for youth, right? Jumping to conclusions, um, yelling, saying it's nonsense and being dismissing. Not only is it hurtful to the youth, it's also teaching how they should act. And that's
And act potentially towards whatever it is you're bringing to them, right?
right. It's like, what is it? You reap what you sow. That sounds a little aggressive, but that's what I think the phrase is. Um,
Well, it just
right.
shakes out
Or
that
you
way
can
sometimes,
dish it,
doesn't
you can dish it, can you take it? Right. It's like,
it? Yeah.
how do you you're teaching something? And that goes, by the way, that's not meant to be like a don't do this. Think about it as an opportunity of what you can teach. How about
Uh-huh.
humility?
Right.
Right. I mean, we who do this all day are saying there's a lot of unknown here.
Right.
You can tell your child, like, yeah, I don't know the right answer now.
Right.
Like,
I
I'm
don't.
not jumping to a conclusion. Why don't we look together? You're
Right.
showing that it's okay to be not sure.
Right. Which is important because I think that when young people are coming and sharing this, they feel like they have to know exactly what they mean, exactly what they're talking about, and sh kind of show this strong face to get through any resistance. And the truth is that young people are still coming to self-understanding. I think we all kind of are for a long time. I mean, at least I can say that for myself. And that's okay. And that allows there to be more freedom in choosing how to proceed.
Yeah, our culture has very much the framing that we brought up at the beginning, the context that we painted, has really set us up, or I should say, sets us up for this. Let me prove to you why I need something, or let me come at this from a I'm going to make arguments perspective. So we're kind of set up for not the best initial contact here, and that's why we're having this program now and this conversation is because we need to change the discourse from one of like everybody banging their chest, screaming, "I know, I'm certain, it's so obvious," to let's be curious about it. And the truth is, there are some things that, like, yeah, I'm pretty sure this is the right thing to do. I mean, I think what we're talking about tonight, we're talking about caution, but we're also talking about very basic things. A relationship is what's going to, the only time I shouldn't say the only time, but okay, when what is the common example? When your 2 year old or 1.5 year old starts reaching for like a glowing coal, if you happen to have glowing coals sitting around your house, or more typically the stove, okay, you're not so preoccupied with your relationship because you want them to have a hand, right? The
Mhm.
relationship um, is not a priority there. Though my guess is you will probably, even in that situation, do some explanation after for why you may have acted so suddenly and harshly. But these are like things that I think certainty is not such a hard thing to get. Relationship, teaching, um, humility, teaching pros and cons, um,
Mhm.
self-reflection. We didn't mention this before, but even some um, cautious, I would say, self-disclosure. The reason why I say cautious is parents um, and teachers and rabbis and therapists might have their own reactions, as you mentioned before, kind of like a barrier to listening. Very well might have, and I would expect to have all kinds of reactions. And you want to think, is this helpful for me to share for my child? Is this helpful to the young person, or to the youth? Is it helpful for them for me to share this? Or do I just need to get it off my chest? I have
Right.
no judgment on the get it off my chest, but just don't do it to the young person. There's
Right.
plenty of places, there are organizations um, that are really there for this purpose. You just don't need to do it in front of your kid, or your student or whoever it is.
And if you do, if you're feeling something and it's just bubbling up, you can say, I gotta excuse myself. This is a lot for me right now. Or maybe not
Yeah.
that.
So let's talk about we brushed over them, but let's talk for a few minutes about some of the ways maybe we've seen youth explore their gender. You know, before we do that, I have one more thing to say related to this. I think one of the phrases that is comes up in so many areas is trust the process, right?
Mm,
Like, so to me, we need to have some faith in human development, which is um, you need to trust that if life continues and the young person, the youth is given a non-bullying, enriching environment, that they're going to figure themselves out. I
mhm,
think about, I don't know why I think of this, but going into, um, you know, a clothing store where you have a pushy salesman or a saleswoman or salesperson, somebody who's trying to sell you something. And whenever they're pushy, it always leads to leaving the store unhappy with what you purchased. Being like,
mhm,
why did I do this? And it's because somebody was pushing you into something you didn't actually want.
mhm,
Um, so really we need to let the process work itself out. Um, so have faith that brains develop, identities get found, people find themselves. Um, and perhaps the most important thing you can do is facilitate that development. Just
mhm,
convincing them one way or another. By the way, these are JQI's way of saying we don't we don't want anybody to push any which way. The whole point is that they need free, non-bullying, enriching space to figure out who they are. Um,
mhm.
so the reason why I said that is, so what are the things some of our JQIers do?
Um, well, they experiment or they'll change their names and see
Mm.
how a different name feels to use. They'll try out different pronouns.
So
Um,
let's do the name thing. Let's pause for a second.
all right.
That's common for our youth, right? Name changes. And by the way, if you think you have a database complication in your work, imagine people changing their names weekly. Okay, not every week, but somebody is changing a name every few weeks, right? And that's totally cool because it's not like they're committing to it. This is they're trying something on and they'll see. And you know what's cool is, believe it or not, I think there's some folks who are skeptical of this. If they don't like it, they'll just change it back. It's not like they've been kidnapped and now they're stuck with this name and they're being influenced. If they don't like what they're being called, we'll encourage them. Um, and everybody should empower their youth to say, like, this actually isn't me.
Mm-hmm.
So one thing is names. Then we talked about pronouns.
Mm-hmm. Yes. What should, I don't know. I'm not sure what we would say about pronouns.
I mean, it definitely is a touch point in today's world, but maybe we could save that for a different time.
Yeah.
If we were with a live, not everybody's alive in the audience, I hope, but if we were in person, I feel like we'd hear like, yes, go for the pronouns, or it would be
Right.
silent, and then we'd know whether people wanted to talk
Right.
about it.
Right.
So we can save that for another time.
Okay.
Um, what are some other things?
I don't know, but should we do questions?
We will in a second. But well, one thing, right? We have like a whole clothing thing at GQI.
Oh, yes, we do. Well, we have a gender affirming closet where people can bring things that they don't want, and anyone is welcome to take things. It's all free, and it's a recent installation. And the point is to, in a non-judgmental place, be able to do a little bit of shopping, a little bit of trying things on, and seeing how different looks feel to you. Um,
And often our youth, by the way, are not taking this stuff home. They're right. Many of them bring their own clothes, change when they get right when they arrive, and then change before they go home.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, it's just an opportunity for folks to figure out, is this me? Is this not me? They can keep it, they can leave it, like whatever it is.
Right,
It's really the clothing store example, except without the pushy person, the pushy
right,
salesperson. I
right.
I didn't even realize I was using less of a metaphor slash analogy than I thought it was.
Yeah. Um, yeah. What else?
We see a lot of haircuts.
That's true. We do
See a
see
lot of
haircuts.
haircuts.
Yeah, we see lots of ways
I
that
just want to say, I just have to say, I'm totally jealous. I really wish when I had hair, I would have done things with it. Just putting it out there.
how long has it been?
Oh, we're not going there.
Okay, fine.
Remember, self-disclosure within limits.
Okay, fine. Um, okay, well, Jeremy, I don't want to cut you off, but I do think we're going to run out of time for
Okay.
questions.
Okay, so let's go to questions. All right, so we have one that is when someone says that they are trans, what are the different possibilities of what they might mean by that? Please give some examples.
Okay, when someone says, I just have to read that once more. When someone says that they are trans, what are the different possibilities of what they might mean by that? Please give some examples. Um, well, I think what they mean, tell me if you think something else, Jeremy. I think what they mean is that in some way, their experience of their gender doesn't match the body that they are in, the way that they look, the way that they are perceived by others because of in their skin suit, whatever. Um, and that can mean a lot of different things, especially in this day and age.
Yeah, I
Uh,
think the definition of trans again has become so loose that it requires asking because I think it could mean somebody says they're trans. I would be curious if it meant that like they don't feel like they fit with um, essentially the role they're being asked to fill.
right.
It's like I don't fit with this. Let's go stereotype here. I don't fit with this blue color, playing baseball, playing sports, whatever other, say, macho stuff. Like, this isn't me. I really totally identify more with, things that would be stereotypically feminine. And it's like, okay, maybe that's what it is. So that could be a possibility. Another one could be I'm non-binary. It's just being, I don't know, what's with this like smart people. I don't feel like particularly masculine. I don't feel particularly feminine.
And
Um,
when I think about it, it gives me a headache, but I just know that the way that people engage with me or look at me is not how I feel.
hmm. Right, and what I'm expected to wear doesn't
Right.
feel right. It's just not me. One of the things to think about is kind of like if you're a cisgender, you might very well never have thought about gender identity before. It like
Right.
happened when you were like 2 or 3 or whatever it is, and you literally just never thought about it. This is not to toot my own horn, but like for some reason I've always thought about it. It's like,
You
oh,
have thought about
well,
it.
you know, because like if I ever build a shelf at JQY, like start I'm like, oh, look at what I did. I like
Uh-huh.
built a thing and it makes me feel very masculine. Like I don't know why, but like there's some things that make me feel that way and some things that don't.
Uh-huh.
Um, so like I would never think I'm not a trans person, but some activities are like very gender affirming, even for me. Like doing things that are like stereotypically male that I'm good at,
Mhm.
whether it's building things or moving furniture. I know this does not like stimulate my intellect here, but I think those can be gender affirming. So I think getting in touch with that side of yourself and doing some own self exploration of what your gender means to you, even as a cis person, you can do that. Um, can help you understand kind of like if it deviates somewhat, that could be the threshold for a young person. Like anything that isn't quite fitting. Um, So we talked about non-binary. We talked about something that doesn't fit with the experience. It could be gender roles. Um, all of these things can fit.
You're really looking to get the particular experience of the person that's in front of you, because each person will kind of explain it or describe it or experience it in a different way. Um, okay, should we go on to the next question? I
Yes.
mean, I just want to say there is something that in some way is like hard to grasp. Like once you get into the weeds of gender, it starts to become hard to, you're like, what is it exactly? But anyway, um, what have you been sharing with trans and non-binary teens to be realistic but encouraging in this time that has been more difficult for them with the current political climate and concrete changes they are facing? Um,
So to me, well, there are two elements to this. One is most of our youth are not able to pursue any medical transition anyway because they're under 18, or they might be living in their family's home where they're not quite able to do that. So, in that sense, there are other constraints on accessing um, trans related health services. There are other constraints before government policies. That said, to me, one of the perhaps uh, a bigger concern for me is the rhetoric that we mentioned earlier, um, and the fear of policies, which is totally understandable when your identity is being talked about. I mean, imagine if for those folks who are Jewish in the audience, if they were talking about Jews and policies about Jews on in every legislature, every state legislature, and it were up to debate what you should be able to get, um, whether various rituals are going to be permitted. It would be extreme, even if you're not observant. Like I can
it
imagine
would
that
be
being
disturbing.
triggering.
But I think what we're trying to do, I mean, also this closet is an ongoing project, but we really try to give within the closet there will be eventually like affirming and positive messages to counteract the messages in the media. And I mean, we're there with them, right? To go through the different ups and downs, and as different things come up, we address them, you know?
Mm.
I don't know.
Yeah, some of the when it comes to kind of what I would say, so there's a lot of empathy that goes into this. Um,
Wait, should we move on to the next one, or we want to?
I think this is going to be our last one, and I don't think we're at least I'm not done with it yet. So what are
Oh,
we doing to kind of instill hope? It's challenging. Um,
we have a
because
zine.
we hold on. We are realistic. Most important, we are realistic about what the constraints are, right? Like we're not. Um,
What do you mean?
so well, often, as I mentioned, kind of the constraints are often like a religious family before any policy that's prohibiting trans care. Mind you, we're in New York, so that's like the thing. Even for people over 18, they're living with their parents. They're not going to be able to get to do any medical transition. Um, so we'll talk about kind of maybe their hopes for the future. Do they have a plan for doing that? Is that something that how important is it to them
Hmm.
to pursue medical transition services at this time? Maybe it's not. Maybe they feel that way. They're like, you know what? Of all the things going on right now, you know what? I'm okay like this. I'm fine with, let's say, being gender fluid. My parents are fine with me dressing how I dress. Um, it's not what I want, but I'm also not going to put in more effort to change that right now because there are other things that I want to do. So we really try to do what we've been talking, which is lending our adult brain. Um, with empathy, being thoughtful, strategize if wanted, and giving agency to the youth to be able to make decisions as far as where they're gonna move forward. Tali, did you have anything to add to that question before we close this up?
No, I don't think so. I'm trying to think. I mean, um, yeah, we try to encourage them in various ways. Like I said, we have a zine, which is a self-published magazine for people to make art or write creatively about their experiences. So, you know, we believe that if they have the platform to express who they are, that's just another way for them to be encouraged in being who they are.
That is another tool that we use. And it's really cool to see the zine committee and they work. I get to see the
And they
meetings.
work and
Yeah,
they
they do work. It's really cool. And I should say, I'm not like super uh, artistic or,
Jeremy,
I,
you're not
oh,
going to show them the charcoal?
oh, the chart. I did my first charcoal drawing yesterday. Okay, but let's put that aside for a second. I'm not, and I don't, I'm not usually into poetry, but I have to tell you, this publication is really cool. Like when I see it, I'm like, oh my gosh, our team, like the JQ Wires did this. Like it is very impressive. Um, so if you can get your hands on it, I'm not exactly sure how we do that, but reach out and we're gonna try to figure it out.
jqi.org/zine.
Okay, there you go. jqi.org/zine. All right, so let's wrap this up. All right, so thank you everyone for coming tonight. Next month's installment of Holding Complexity is titled Helping Queer Youth Envision Their Jewish Future. I will be joined by my colleague, JQI's executive director, Rachel Freed, as we talk to several queer Jews to learn how they've crafted their Jewish lives so that we can help queer youth figure out how they can craft their Jewish futures. So that will be on Monday, March 9th, 2026. I hope you're all marking your calendars. I can't hear you scribbling. Oh, wait, they're all muted. Um, it will be on Monday, March 9th, 2026, from 7:30 to 8:30 Eastern. And the cool thing is that registration is live. You can go to jqi.org/training right now to sign up. Unlike some transition related services, according to some people, it actually doesn't help to wait on registering for next month. You can just go and do it now.
But
But I've been prepping that all day. And then my final thing I'll say is this program and all of our youth facing services are provided free of charge. We can only do this with the generosity of folks like yourself. So if you have it in your heart, some money in your wallet or balance on your credit card, go to jqi.org/donate. You can make a tax deductible donation, even if it's just $1. We greatly appreciate it, as will our youth. So that is all for this month. Look forward to
thank
seeing
you.
you next month. And thanks, everyone. Have a good night.
Thanks for joining.
Bye bye.
Bye.